I paid for my sister's dream wedding. Then she banned me to make room for her friends. I confronted her, and she snapped. You were just the wallet. I smiled and said, then I'll take my wallet back. The venue called her the next day with devastating news. I never imagined that betrayal could wear a white dress and smile so sweetly. But there she was, my sister, my own flesh and blood, twirling in the grand ballroom I had paid for, laughing with friends who had taken my place. And I had been cast aside, exiled, like I was nothing more than a transaction. But let's rewind. Let's start at the beginning, where love still lingered and my generosity hadn't yet been trampled beneath satin heels. My sister had always dreamed of a fairytale wedding, the kind with crystal chandeliers, a live orchestra, and a venue so breathtaking that guests would whisper in awe. But dreams like that cost money, a lot of it, and she didn't have it. So, like the fool I was, I stepped in. I'll pay for it, I had said. Simple words, spoken with love. She had cried, hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. You have no idea what this means to me. Oh, but I did. It meant she got everything she ever wanted. The designer dress, the 5-course meal, the hand-carved invitations dipped in gold foil. It meant she walked into a world of luxury, and all she had to do was say, I do. But I never expected that. In her eyes, my generosity came with an expiration date. 2 weeks before the wedding, I got the call. Hey, she said, her voice dripping with forced sweetness. So, about the seating arrangements. I already knew where this was going. You're cutting my spot, I said flatly. A pause. Not exactly. I let the silence stretch. She sighed, exasperated. Like I was the problem. Look, we had to make some changes. The venue only holds so many people, and a lot of my friends. Your friends over your own sibling? She hesitated. They're really important to me. I laughed, sharp and humorless. More important than the person who paid for this entire thing? Don't be dramatic, she huffed. You were never really into weddings anyway. It's not a big deal if you don't come. Not a big deal. I felt something inside me crack, but I held my voice steady. So what am I then? Just an open wallet. She hesitated. Then, in a voice so cold it sent chills down my spine, she said, well, yeah. And just like that, the last shred of doubt vanished. I smiled, though she couldn't see it. Then I'll take my wallet back. She scoffed. What's that supposed to mean? You'll see. I hung up before she could respond. My hands shook, but not with sadness. Not with regret. With determination. By morning, every contract I had signed, every deposit I had made, it was all being reversed. I wasn't just funding her wedding. My name was on the paperwork. The venue. The catering. The music. The flowers. Everything. She wanted me out? Fine. I was out. But so was my money. The next day, my phone buzzed. Not her. The venue. I answered, waiting. Hi. We just wanted to confirm. The cancellation request has been processed. I smiled. Perfect. Silence. Then, hesitantly, your sister just called us. She wasn't aware of the cancellation. I leaned back, savoring the moment. I'm sure she wasn't. And somewhere, across town, my sister's perfect wedding was crumbling to dust. My phone rang. Then again, and again. I ignored it every time. But my sister? Oh, she wasn't the type to accept defeat. When calling didn't work, she showed up. The pounding on my door was almost impressive, like she was trying to break it down with sheer rage. I took my time answering. Let her stew. Let the weight of her actions sit heavy on her shoulders. When I finally opened the door, she stormed in, wild-eyed and breathless. What the HLL did you do? She shrieked. I shut the door calmly. I took my wallet back. You, she escalated in a furious breath. You ruined everything. The venue, the caterers, God, even the flowers. I crossed my arms. You told me I was just the wallet. So, I acted accordingly. Her hands balled into fists. You're being spiteful. Spiteful. That was rich. You cut me from my own sister's wedding, I said, voice even. You replaced me with people who have done nothing for you. And you expect me to smile and still foot the bill. She let out a hollow laugh. I knew you'd pull something like this. That's why I told Mom and Dad everything. Oh, of course. Right on cue, my phone buzzed again. Our parents. No doubt calling to lecture me about family and forgiveness. I sighed. What exactly did you tell them? Her lips curled into a smirk. That you're being petty. That you're punishing me over a seating chart. And that now, because of you, my wedding is ruined. Oh, so she was playing the victim. Classic. Right, I said. And did you also tell them you kicked me out of the wedding for your friends? She faltered. Did you tell them you called me a wallet? I took a step closer. Did you mention that, or did you leave that part out? Her jaw clenched. Yeah, that's what I thought. My parents showed up within the hour. Mom, already red-eyed like she'd been crying for hours. Dad, tense and disapproving. I barely had time to open the door before Mom grabbed my hand. Sweetheart, please. Just fix this. I pulled back. Fix what exactly? The wedding, she whispered, as if saying it any louder would make it worse. She's devastated. I gave my sister a slow look. She stood off to the side, arms crossed, bottom lip quivering just enough to sell the act. Unbelievable. Dad cleared his throat. You went too far. I arched a brow. Did I? Mom stepped in again. I know she made a mistake. I know she hurt you. But this is cruel. I exhaled, biting down the anger bubbling in my chest. Let me ask you something, I said, looking between them. If I hadn't been the one paying, do you think she would have cut me? Silence. I nodded. Exactly. Dad rubbed his temples. Look, I understand why you're upset. But this is your sister's wedding. Can't you be the bigger person? I laughed. Loudly. I was the bigger person. I paid for everything. I gave her her dream wedding. And what did she do? She cut me like I was nothing. She was under stress, Mom reasoned. I shot my sister a look. Do you regret it? She hesitated. Just for a second. And that told me everything. You don't, do you? I scoffed. You're not sorry you did it. You're just sorry it backfired. Her mouth opened, then closed. Mom turned to her, eyes pleading. Sweetheart, tell them you're sorry. Another hesitation. But then, with the fakest, flattest voice I'd ever heard, she muttered, I'm sorry. Wow. A performance worthy of an Oscar. I could have let it slide. Could have swallowed my pride and put everything back together for the sake of peace. But no. I'd spent my whole life bending over backward for people who took me for granted. This was my line in the sand. So I straightened. No, Mom blinked. What? I said no. I looked my sister dead in the eyes. Find someone else to pay for your wedding. I'm done. Her face twisted. You can't do that. I smirked. I already did. Dad groaned. For God's sake, just help your sister. I met his gaze, unflinching. If you care so much, why don't you pay for it? Silence. Mom looked away. And that was it. That was all I needed to know. They wanted me to clean up the mess because they couldn't. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I opened the door. We're done here. Mom gave me a heartbreaking look. Please. My heart ached. But I stood firm. No. Slowly they walked out. My sister shot me one last glare before storming off. I shut the door, exhaling. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. For the first time in weeks, my phone stopped ringing. No more calls. No more desperate texts. Just silence. And it was blissful. For 3 whole days, I lived in peace. No entitled demands. No guilt tripping. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing I had finally stood up for myself. But of course, peace never lasts when people like my sister are involved. Because on the 4th day, the doorbell rang. I opened it to see my sister. She looked rough. Eyes puffy. Hair a mess. Lips pressed together so tightly they were almost white. She had always been good at appearances, but not today. I leaned against the doorframe. Didn't expect to see you here. She didn't smile. Didn't try to force fake sweetness like she usually did. Can we talk? She asked, voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. I hesitated. Every instinct told me this was just another trick. Another manipulation. But curiosity won out. I stepped aside. Fine. Talk. She walked in slowly, like she was stepping onto unstable ground. Her hands twisted together, her nails chewed down to nothing. I messed up, she said, exhaling shakily. I raised an eyebrow. That's new. Usually, you just blame me. She winced. I know. And I deserve that. I folded my arms, waiting. She licked her lips. The wedding's in 5 days. I didn't react. She swallowed. The venue's booked solid for the next year. The caterers are all full. The florist backed out completely. The dress, her voice cracked. I can't afford to fix this. My lips twitched. Sounds rough. Her head snapped up. Please, she whispered. I need your help. And there it was. The real reason she was here. Not because she regretted hurting me. Not because she wanted to fix our relationship. She just wanted me to fix her wedding. I sighed. Let me ask you something. She nodded quickly, hope flickering in her eyes. If I hadn't pulled the funding, would you have ever apologized? Silence. A long, heavy silence. And that was all the answer I needed. I can't do this, I said, shaking my head. Her face twisted. You can. You just won't. Correct. Tears welled in her eyes. It's my wedding. I exhaled sharply. And I was supposed to be your family. But you didn't care about that when you cut me, did you? She flinched. I stepped forward. You didn't care when you replaced me. You didn't care when you called me a wallet. You only care now because you lost. Her breathing grew ragged. I didn't lose, you did. My voice was quiet but firm. You lost me. She froze. I reached for the door and held it open. I think we're done here. Her jaw clenched. For a second, I thought she might actually say something meaningful. Something real. Instead, she scoffed. Fine, she muttered. I don't need you anyway. And just like that, she walked out. No more begging. No more pretending. Just cold, bitter anger. I shut the door behind her. And for the first time, I knew. This wasn't just about the wedding anymore. This was the end of us. After my sister walked out, I expected fallout. More angry calls. More guilt tripping. Maybe even a last-minute family intervention to shove me back into my old role. The fixer. The provider. The one who kept the peace. But nothing came. Not a single call. Not a single text. Just silence. And that was terrifying. Because my sister wasn't the type to accept defeat. If she wasn't fighting me directly, she was planning something. And I was right. Because 2 days before the wedding, the first crack appeared. I was scrolling through my phone, enjoying a lazy afternoon, when a message popped up from a friend. Check this out. Thought you'd want to see it. Attached was a screenshot. A post from my sister's fiancé. I frowned. We weren't exactly close, but he'd always seemed like a decent enough guy. Level-headed. Reasonable. But his post? It was a disaster. Some people are so petty they'd rather destroy someone's happiness than see them succeed. It's disgusting when family turns against you, but karma always comes around. Can't wait to marry the love of my life despite the setbacks. Setbacks? I let out a low laugh. Oh, that was rich. I typed back to my friend. Did he say who he's talking about? A minute later, another screenshot came through. The comments were a mess. People demanding to know what happened. Friends of my sister rushing to her defense, saying I had ruined her wedding out of jealousy. Strangers chiming in, calling me bitter and selfish. And then, buried in the middle, one comment from someone I didn't recognize. Maybe you should tell everyone why the wedding was really canceled. No likes. No replies. Just sitting there, unnoticed. I stared at it. Something about it felt off. Like a warning. Like a secret waiting to be uncovered. Curiosity gnawed at me. So, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my sister's fiancé. He didn't answer. Of course. But then, not 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A new number. I picked up. Hello. A low, hesitant voice. Hey, it's me. I blinked. You got a new number? A pause. Then, carefully, a lot's happened. That confirmed it. Something was wrong. I sat up. What's going on? A long sigh. Then, finally, I think I made a mistake. I went still. What kind of mistake? I asked slowly. He exhaled sharply. The kind that makes you question everything. Silence stretched between us. Then he said the words that changed everything. She lied to me. My grip tightened on the phone. About what? About you. About the wedding. About a lot of things. He hesitated. She told me you pulled the money because you were jealous. That you wanted to ruin it. That he stopped. She said some awful things about you. I swallowed. And you believed her. Another long silence. Then, quietly, I did. Anger simmered beneath my skin. Not just at him, but at her. She hadn't just tried to cut me out. She had rewritten the entire story. Turned me into the villain. Convinced the one person who should have seen through her lies that I was the problem. I took a slow breath. So, why are you calling me now? He hesitated. Then, in a voice so low I almost didn't hear it, he said, because I found something. Goosebumps prickled my skin. What did you find? He exhaled. Evidence. That she was never planning to keep you in the wedding at all. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I mean, she cut you months ago, long before she told you. She planned it. She just didn't tell you until after you paid. My mind reeled. That doesn't make sense. Why wait? His next words sent a chill down my spine. Because she knew you wouldn't pay if you found out sooner. Everything clicked into place. She had never intended to keep me in the wedding. She had always planned to replace me with her friends. But she kept up the act just long enough to secure my money. I sat back, letting the betrayal settle in. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an impulsive decision made under stress. It was calculated. Planned. Cold. I clenched my jaw. Why are you telling me this now? He hesitated. Because I'm not sure I can go through with this wedding. For the first time since this mess started, I felt something unexpected. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, karma was finally catching up. I sat in silence, gripping my phone, my mind racing. I'm not sure I can go through with this wedding. Those words echoed in my head. My sister's fiancé wasn't just doubting. He was unraveling. And if he was unraveling, so was she. I took a slow breath. What do you want to do? He hesitated. I don't know. Another pause. But I can't marry someone who lies like this. Who manipulates people, family, just to get what she wants. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of it all. Then don't. Silence. Then, finally, a quiet, broken whisper. Yeah, I think I won't. The next morning, the news broke. Not through an announcement. Not through whispers. But through chaos. My phone exploded with messages. Friends. Family. Even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Is it true? Did they call off the wedding? What happened? Holy crap, your sister is losing it. I didn't reply. Instead, I sat back and watched. Watched as my sister's perfectly curated life crumbled in real time. The venue? Empty. The flowers? Unused. The guests? Confused. And my sister? She was livid. She showed up at my door that afternoon. I barely had time to brace myself before she shoved her way inside, wild-eyed and furious. You! She shrieked, finger jabbing at me like a weapon. You did this. I crossed my arms. Did what? Don't play dumb. Her voice cracked. He left me. The wedding is off. And it's your fault. I exhaled calm. No, it's your fault. She flinched. You lied. You used me. You tried to cut me out of my own family, and you thought you'd get away with it. My voice didn't rise. Didn't waver. But you didn't. Tears welled in her eyes. You could have just let it go. I tilted my head. And you could have just treated me like family. She stared at me, chest heaving, hands trembling. Then, in a broken whisper, she said, I lost everything. For a moment, my heart ached. She was my sister. No matter what she'd done, no matter how cruel she had been, there had been a time when we were close. When we were more than this twisted, bitter wreckage. But then I remembered. She hadn't lost everything. She had thrown it away. I met her gaze, steady. That was your choice. She let out a shuddering breath, stepped back, then turned and walked out of my life. Maybe for good. Days passed, then weeks. The dust settled. The world moved on. My sister? She stayed quiet. For once, she had no one left to blame. As for me, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was free. And that was worth everything. Months passed. The storm my sister created had finally died down, leaving nothing but silence in its wake. No more calls. No more dramatic accusations. Just the emptiness of a burned bridge. And honestly, I was fine with that. At first, there was guilt. A tiny, nagging part of me that wondered if I had gone too far. If I should have just let it go. But every time that doubt crept in, I reminded myself, this wasn't just about a wedding. This was about respect. About self-worth. I had spent my entire life bending over backward for people who wouldn't do the same for me. And the second I set boundaries, the second I refused to be used, they showed me exactly where I stood. And now, I stood alone. But I stood stronger. Word eventually trickled back to me. My sister had tried to spin the story, of course, to paint herself as the victim, the abandoned bride whose selfish sibling had ruined her happiness. But people talk, and no lie holds up forever. Slowly, the truth spread. Her fiancé, ex-fiancé, had been the first to speak out. He didn't go into detail, but he made it clear he had walked away because of her actions, not mine. That was enough to make people question. Then, one by one, the cracks deepened. Vendors refused to refund her. Friends who had benefited from her manipulation started distancing themselves. Even my parents, who had fought so hard to get me to cave, stopped defending her. Because deep down, they knew. She had done this to herself. As for me, I thrived. I cut out toxicity. Focused on the people who did value me. The friends who stood by me. The family members who saw through the lies. And most importantly, I learned something priceless. Blood doesn't make family. Loyalty does. I wouldn't waste another second giving my love to people who only saw me as a means to an end. And if that meant walking away, so be it. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't someone's wallet. I was free.